would they think you were gay?
I don't know. Oh, well, this is where it started. Oh, man, suck my... All right.
Derek Lamel Stewart, born March 26, 1968. Today's feature is a rapper whose story I find very interesting. You may look at the title and think it's a typo or clickbait, but it's not. FATLIP in an interview admits to once upon a time receiving bro-top or oral pleasure from another man that he didn't know at the time was indeed a man. He said it changed his life forever when he found out, as I'm sure it did. Years later, FATLIP did become a clown, even if it was for a day to shoot the music video for his song What's Up FATLIP. Either way, after doing the Pharcyde feature most recently and rediscovering a group that was before my time, I stumbled into FATLIP's story, and not only did he become my favorite of the group as a rapper, he also seemed the most genuine and self-aware, even to a fault. He has a story worth being told of how one unfortunate situation after the other led him to being kicked out of his group and on a downward spiral that produced no solo success. As you all know, FATLIP is formerly of the group The Pharcyde that produced a few of hip-hop's most legendary songs of the 90s, with Passing Me By considered one of the best songs hip-hop has ever produced. The guy yelling on the hook of that song is none other than FATLIP. It went as high as #1 on the Billboard rap charts, peak at just 52 on the Billboard 100, and never went platinum. But to hip-hop fans, they love it, as the song will probably be remembered forever when you think of classic hip-hop representation. The Pharcyde to me is still a very underrated group that should be remembered as one of the best groups of all time without the accolades to prove it. They all had unique voices and something they brought to the table, but couldn't get out of their own selfish and somewhat immature ways to make the almost impossible work, keeping a rap group together. FATLIP was the group's first casualty, and he may have brought it on himself to have the other members finally want him out. His solo career was the epitome of lackluster, as it took almost 10 years to date from the release of the Pharcyde's final album with all the members at least present in the studio for a project to the time FATLIP released a full-length solo album of his own. That album still had one of my favorite songs, which was the lead single called What's Up FATLIP, that couldn't be more honest and vulnerable, but perfectly illustrates the fall of FATLIP. Lines like, I go out like a sucker almost every day, or I'm just a ass nigga, type to get robbed if I was a rich ass nigga, and the hook, who am I kidding, who am I fooling, when they be like, what's up FATLIP, and I say coolin'. The most fun, sad song you will ever hear in hip-hop, representing the genius of FATLIP, but also the self-awareness that yes, FATLIP fell off as a rapper when he should have been the man leaving the Pharcyde. What happened? Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth Music. Let's get it, man. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. You can also send a super thanks by clicking the button below. Enjoy the video. FATLIP is a rapper from Los Angeles, California that made his way as a dancer before rap, then linked up with a few other dancers, Imani, Booty Brown, and Slim Kid Trey to form a rap group. FATLIP was last to join. The group enjoyed success on an underground level, but peaked their heads up every so often with pseudo-mainstream success in the early 90s. Their debut album, The Bizarre Ride to the Pharcyde, went gold after 4 years being released, followed by a sophomore album that wasn't received nor performed well because of all the group was going through internally. After its release, FATLIP was removed from the group and pushed to go solo. Instead, that just turned into a downward spiral that wouldn't amount to an album until 2005. Stunt number 1, chopping Bliggy on the table.
Has been MC on a label that's unstable. Chopping Bliggy on the table.
It's not only a part of a dope line, literally, from FATLIP, but it marked the period where he entered what he calls his experimental stage, where his drug use became an overbearing force in his life that was the tokens in the machine of his journey to the dark side. Has been MC on a label that's unstable, chopping bliggy on the table. As he says, the point he lost himself. Sometime after the release of their second album as a group, FATLIP says their sound went further and further away from traditional hip-hop. They even began performing at rave shows and spots he didn't feel natural at the time, so eventually became tired of it. His group had become more and more distant from each other after touring, as each member had ample opportunity to discover themselves and begin their own journey alone for the first time since their early 20s. FATLIP's indulgence was getting high off cocaine and/or ecstasy and listening to East Coast music like Biggie Smalls, Tribe Called Quest, and Wu-Tang, among others. Hearing their music made him feel the direction his group was going was whack to him and didn't have that hip-hop feel that he was once attracted to. He became agitated now in studio sessions to the point members of the group could feel his negativity, and it didn't make for good music produced. Being high off the bliggy led FATLIP into a serious depression, along with things not going so well in his group. He would brag about doing cocaine like it was the cool thing and began to associate it with being a musician. All musicians get high, right? Was his thought. He started getting high more often in order to create. Instead, it's the opposite of what happened, as it just made him more distant and too lazy to make music, put it out, and promote it, along with feeling paranoid, fearful, and less interactive than he knew himself to be. None of this helped more music come out, and it stunted his individual growth.
That's when I lost myself. That's when I lost, like, who I was, really.
Stunt number 2, being kicked out his group. Eventually, the rest of the members of the group had a decision to make. One that began with Slim Kid Trey recognizing FATLIP not only had a problem with the direction the group was going, left their tour early to work on a solo career, and became a condescending, negative person to work with, he was also admittedly hooked on serious drugs to the point it was affecting his life and at the very least was bad representation of the group. Slim Kid gave the rest of the members a him or me ultimatum, and a phone call was made to FATLIP's house informing him they were all coming over to talk. FATLIP agreed but already understood what it was. They were coming over to break up with him. He prepared himself for the inevitable and accepted when they told him they thought it was time he focused on a solo career. One he'd been bragging about being anxious to start because of his disdain for where their music was headed. The group left his house as now the 3-membered Pharcyde, but not for long, as Slim Kid Trey also left soon after to start his own solo career. FATLIP dove into even more depression and lost his way as an MC. He began partying and living off the name Pharcyde, as no substantial music became of it until 10 years later. Being removed from the group hurt FATLIP as an artist, as he began to realize how much of a group mate is exactly what he was meant to be, especially in the state he was in, where alone he wasn't focused enough to have a successful solo career.
I remember the day, too, they came to my house, and they never came to my apartment. That was it right there. They was like, you should do your own solo album.
Stunt number 3 ran his course.
Did you ever think about retiring from rap, though?
Every day.
At some point, FATLIP began to realize, or at least so he thought, that rap for him was all but over. He contemplated retirement, but also knew he had no other choice but to rap. All he did was sleep, eat, and dream of being a rapper. It was all he knew and trained himself to do. With no turning back, FATLIP went years without releasing solo music, much less an album, and was only good for a feature or cameo here and there. In 2005, he did release an album produced heavily by J Swift that did manage to take FATLIP's solo career anywhere. It did make for some catchy music like What's Up FATLIP that lays out everything depressing that either happened to FATLIP or what he believed he was becoming, which was a has-been rapper that's washed up and is now a loser, biding time before he inevitably becomes a bum on the streets like he always feared. Great song, by the way. On it, he also talks about an encounter with a man he thought was a female, getting oral pleasure from him unknowingly, beating him up, then driving him home and never being the same again. He rapped about it in the song Oh Ish by the Pharcyde and has always admitted it was something that happened. He's set to release a second album supposedly this month that will excite underground hip-hop fans, but will probably make things all the more clear that rap for FATLIP has simply ran its course. All in all, FATLIP I think is still a dope MC that was good for hip-hop, an example that a certain focus is needed to be successful in music. Indulging in drugs and a fast life are only distractions that can subtract from your talents and lead down a road you may one day wake up and realize you lost it all. His work with the Pharcyde will always be written in hip-hop history, but as a solo artist, for these reasons, his growth was stunted. Salute, much respect. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth Music, and I'm out.
I got friends everywhere, okay? I'm in this motherfucker VIP.